Well, yesterday, KCTV 5 featured an event happening out in KCK, and Bill Scholl is a deacon with the Archdiocese out in Kansas City, Kansas. Faith communities coming together to, as KCTV 5 reports here, support non-violent immigrants. I'll play some of this report from KCTV 5, and then we'll welcome Bill Scholl on the show.
Live at the Archdiocese of Kansas City in Kansas, leaders there really sending a big message today, Morgan.
Yeah, here they've teamed up with the Diocese of St. Joseph on the Missouri side. Together, they speak to about 300,000 area Catholics on a regular basis. They're calling on everyone to reevaluate what's happening in this country.
It's doing more harm than good.
Deacon Bill Scholl is calling on believers.
I don't know if you read this New Testament and you know about this Jesus guy, but he's pretty concerned about the poor. He's pretty concerned about the oppressed.
Scholl led a
So that was Bill Scholl. He now joins us on 95.7 FM. Bill, good morning. It's great to have you here on the show as always. Appreciate your time. So what's the main message you're trying to get across here as it relates to immigration policy in America?
Yeah, the time has come for us to stop pursuing an enforcement-only approach to addressing the problem of undocumented immigrants in our country, and to start seriously looking at how can we fix the laws so that decent people who have established families, have established presence in the community, have some kind of means, reasonable means to come out of the legal shadows and get their situation regularized. Right now, we need more judges. We don't need more cops. Right now, federal immigration judges, there's a backlog of over 3 million cases. People who are trying to get their day in court and get their situation legalized are having to wait just an inordinate amount of time. And now, because of recent tactics taken up by ICE, and I don't want to disparage law enforcement officers, because I know a lot of them are just doing their jobs and they're trying to keep our community safe. But this tactic of showing up at courts and arresting people, it's very it's somewhat unprecedented, and it's concerning, and it's alarming, and that's why Catholics from the Archdiocese of Kansas City and Kansas, along with Catholics from the Diocese of Kansas City, St. Joe, and Kansas City, Missouri, we gathered at the Immigration Court in Midtown Kansas City, Missouri, to bring some grace into this situation. We came together and we prayed a rosary, and we encouraged people to be court watchers, to be people who would accompany immigrants in these trying times.
Do you have concerns in this complicated political climate we are in using the words of Jesus to support an immigration policy in America in 2025 that is very complex and has a lot of gray areas to it?
Well, I think we need to stop demonizing each other and actually come together and start speaking. I mean, I think right now one of the problems we're having in this country, and Pete, you do so much, I think, to bring differing voices together on your show. It's one of the things I admire about you. But we're all kind of trapped in our sort of own information news bubble. We're trapped by our algorithms. And so you try to talk about these issues, and it's people who normally, are decent and good, they get very upset. And it's often the situation where it's like, well, you have your facts and I have my facts, and never the twain shall meet. I think one of the problems too is demonizing people who say, well, hey, I'm not so sure we should just be letting so many people in, or I don't know if I'm so sure that we should, allow these people who are not in compliance with the law to just get a free pass. They're demonized and called racist. That's not right. But on the other hand, too, to say, well, the time has come for us to get serious about fixing these broken laws, and we need to temper our justice with mercy. To say that those kinds of people are in league with criminality is also ridiculous. So we need to get away from the diatribe and really just have a discussion. I also think that there's this false narrative that, well, if you're conservative Republican, then you got to be in the MAGA camp and you got to be against immigration and enforcement only. And I just think that's not true. I think this is actually an issue that crosses the aisle. Just a few days ago, right now, our bishops in the United States, they're gathering together. And a few days ago, they issued a special message calling for our nation to get serious about fixing our broken immigration laws, and saying national security and reasonable immigration are not mutually exclusive. And that's rather extraordinary. They haven't done that since 2013, and they did so with an overwhelming majority. So my hope is that people who are Christian, who lean conservative, will take a look and go, what's going on? The United States bishops are generally, pretty much about preserving the common good. They tend to lean maybe a little bit conservative, but they're united on this. Maybe I could support this. Maybe this isn't such a liberal thing. And, Pete, I've also been thinking a lot, because I listen to your show, and I remember you back in the days when I was on Religion on the Line, and all the support you gave us. But, I was thinking that conservatives, if it was any other law and it was any other administration, I think we'd be up in arms about this erosion of due process. I think we'd be concerned that in these immigration raids, that sometimes U.S. citizens actually get arrested. There's been at least 170 cases of American citizens. They are in the wrong place at the wrong time, and even though they have valid ID, they get arrested and detained without the benefit of being able to even get that one phone call. I also think it's concerning that we've mobilized over $75 billion in the big, beautiful bill to increase this police force, and they're taking has more of a military feel to me. I mean, they're wearing balaclavas, they're wearing military uniforms, and it just seems like, what happened to Posse Comitas, man? Like what's going to happen when they solve this problem? I mean, are all those guys, where are those guys going to go? And I've been talking to some of my conservative friends.
Well, let me ask you, Bill, let me just slow you down a little bit, because you're saying a lot, but I'm trying to, go back and forth here with you. So Bill Scholl is a deacon, KCK Archdiocese on KCMO. What, at the start of this, you mentioned the U.S. bishops. Do you think the Catholic Church globally should be playing more of a role and can do a better job on looking at some of the things that are happening in other parts of the world, let's say South and Central America, where you have large Catholic populations, to help those folks in their countries that would then not make them as likely to try to break American laws by coming to America the way that they do?
Yeah, Yahtzee, Pete. Bingo. Yes, absolutely.
So why aren't we calling out the Catholic Church?
Well, what do you mean exactly?
Well, advocating,
they're not the bishops,
advocating for the Catholic Church globally to do a better job in these largely Catholic countries and helping people so they aren't as desperate to come here and break our laws to come into our country.
Well, you said earlier, it's a very nuanced issue. That's an interesting direction. So let me just say this. Catholic social teaching is this, that every human being has the right to live have access and live a life of dignity. So access to food, water, shelter, the basic human necessities, respect for their right to life, access to healthcare, education. Everyone has a right to live a decent life in their own community. And it's only then when that situation is not possible due to war or economic issues where they cannot. It's not possible. For instance, right now there's issues with the cartels. I mean, I've met a number of individuals. Well, the reason I was immigrating is my family one of my relatives was kidnapped, and when we got that family member back, we realized it wasn't safe for us to live here anymore. But I think too, as Americans, we need to get honest that we were a major player in globalizing the economy. In fact, when Bill Clinton was getting NAFTA passed, one of the requirements that Mexico had to do was they had to actually change their constitution, because before NAFTA, a foreign power could not have a majority interest in any Mexican business. And so that they had to change that. And what resulted was, all these people had jobs and were doing okay in their own country. The equivalent of the big box stores came in and put them out of business. So if you're a major player in globalizing capital, you also have to realize there's this attendant reality of globalizing labor. And so I think that's part of the problem too. We need to ask ourselves this question: is the economy for human beings, or are human beings for the economy? In a lot of ways, with these poor countries, we're taking advantage of them. We're exploiting them, and then we're upset when, because of economic necessity, they do exactly what our ancestors did. I mean, I come from Irish ancestors, right? They came over as a result of the potato famine, and that was another kind of man-made disaster. It didn't have to happen. And so I think the bishops they're in their own country, they are advocating for these things, but it's not an either or type of approach. It's a both and. So
it's a both.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're going for there. I mean, I'm not sure I'm convinced that NAFTA and American economic policy is the reason that these countries have devolved into places that people are trying to flee. I mean, I don't know if you can come to the conclusion that Central and South America is the way it is because of American policy. It's the way it is because of the people that are running those countries, right? It's got nothing to do with us.
Well, they ultimately are responsible, yeah, but I wouldn't say that it's not necessarily, because I think they would disagree when they say that the condition of our country has nothing to do with the United States. I mean, I know what is it, the Monroe Doctrine, right, where the United States really sees it as a vital national security interest to sort of maintain the Western Hemisphere. And there are a number of things that we have done that have impacted these people's economies. Like, for instance, it used to be that Jamaica, they had a special arrangement with the country of England, where England just bought their bananas from Jamaica. And one of the reasons England was doing that was in atonement kind of for the ways in which they had exploited the country. But, the good people at Dole Bananas, they were saying, well, hey, that's unfair trade practices and that's a violation. And so they were, we used our military clout to end that special consideration that the island of Jamaica had. And what happened? Well, the Jamaica banana farmers were impoverished by that decision, and the Dole banana companies, they sold way more bananas. And what did it matter to the English people? Well, now their bananas were like 5 cents cheaper. So there's a whole slew, a whole history of where we use our leverage and our privilege to kind of make it almost impossible for these countries to thrive, or our economic decisions kind of made in isolation, not considering the human impact of those decisions, because we're so detached from those.
So then what do you think
economies.
The policy,
Yeah.
Let me ask you, Bill, I got a couple minutes here.
Yeah.
What should the policy then be of the Catholic Church when it comes to responsible immigration in America, knowing full well, I think you would admit we had a problem under the last administration with illegal immigration and that not being good for the American citizen by and large?
Yeah, I think what the church is saying, I mean, for too long, we've been just allowing the executive branch to sort of de facto make immigration policy. So really what needs to happen is we need to fix the laws. We need and the bishops have been advocating this for 20 plus years of comprehensive immigration reform. And comprehensive means, yes, there is enforcement, but also we give people who are here who don't have a record of criminality. Means some of them have even served in the army, or they didn't come over. They came over in this country as kids. It wasn't their decision. Giving people paths to being here legally. I mean, I think you and I can both agree that if you came over when you were 5, and for all intents and purposes have lived a life as an American. I mean, some of these dreamer kids, they don't even know that they don't have legal status. I mean, some of them are graduated from college and only to find out from their parents, oh, by the way, you don't have legal residence. And so there's a lot of ways we could fix our immigration law, and we need to stop seeing these people as criminals. In fact, the vast majority haven't even committed a misdemeanor. I mean, if you come to this country with a visa, which most undocumented immigrants, they came over with a visa and they're no longer in compliance with their visa, but that's not a crime. That's a civil matter. The government actually has to sue those people. And your first time crossing is
but most of the people that came in during the Biden years did not come through with a visa. I mean, most of the people that came through under Joe Biden were not coming through with a visa. Yeah.
And I think that was I think that was no way to handle the situation. And the Catholic Church, we don't condone doing things illegally. We strongly believe in the rule of law, but there's a higher rule, right, Pete? There's a higher rule, the rule of human decency, and the rule of human dignity. And a lot of times, I mean, it's sort of
does that rule then supersede someone who breaks the laws of a country? Because that's also something that is, as you well know, a biblical thing that gets discussed, right?
Well, certainly the way we're doing things are unjust. And as St. Augustine said, an unjust law is no law at all. There is a higher law, and that higher law is respect.
Is it unjust to protect one's own? Is it unjust to protect one's own borders?
No. In fact, governments have a responsibility, and the bishops were very clear on that statement. But that doesn't mean that you then have license to just basically mobilize billions and billions of dollars of enforcement. I mean, come on, Pete. If any other federal agency was mobilizing the equivalent of most countries' national defense budget to enforce a law, which in many cases is a misdemeanor violation, conservatives, we'd be up in arms. I mean, most federal agencies, they take a tactic which is called enforced compliance. So if the federal agency finds out, you're not in compliance with the law, you have 30 to 60 days to get in compliance. So we also, we're trying to stop criminality, but by having all these innocent people, most immigrant households, 85% of them, someone in their family is undocumented. So when you rip that person out of the family, you're hurting Americans. And there's got to be a better way. This isn't an either or thing. And we need to stop treating these people like criminals. And I think, too, we need to stop seeing this as a left-right thing and seeing this as American. Because, yes, as America, one of the things that makes us great is we believe in the rule of law. And everyone is equal under the eyes of the law. No one's above it and no one's below it. But we also are a nation of immigrants. And the two are not mutually exclusive.
Legal, though, right, ways. Bill? We agree in the legal immigrant.
Well, yeah, people say that, Pete, and I agree with you. But then, when people like things like this, well, all right, these immigrants, they're showing up at court. They're trying to get legal. And you've got ICE agents creating a chilling effect on the process of the rule of law, of the process to, have a trial. Also, too, we're seeing an erosion. I mean, it's been the custom of this nation that everyone got due process. So resident, whether you were a citizen or not, and I got into this debate with my son, like, well, I don't know, should immigrants have the right to due process? And he's like, well, what happens if an American citizen gets arrested, and because he doesn't have due process, he's not able to go before a judge and say they're violating habeas corpus? They're not charging me and they're just shipping me away. And we're seeing things like that happen. And I think conservatives who are supporting this current approach, and don't get me wrong, we need to enforce these laws, but we also need to start providing pathways to get legality. And this sort of heavy-handed, excessive force where we're treating, single
Bill,
mothers
I'm way over, but I'm very grateful for the conversation, and we'll be in touch. All right.
All right. Hey, God bless.
You too. Thanks so much. Bill Scholl, Deacon, KCK Archdiocese on KCMO Talk Radio.